The tale of two commencement speeches. Vice President Mike Pence offering some hope and prosperity to graduating students over the weekend. But former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg and also Oprah Winfrey had a very different message.
Faith in America is rising again because President Trump and our entire administration have been advancing the very principles that you learned here in the halls at Hillsdale College. Truth is, when you leave this place, you're going to find an America filled with promise.
Here we are in the midst of an epidemic of dishonesty. When elected officials speak as though they are above the truth, they will act as though they are above the law.
If they go low, thank you, Michelle Obama. If they go low, we go to the polls.
All right, so when did graduations become so political? I guess everything's political now. Joining me now to debate this is contributor to The Hill, Kristin Tate, and Democratic strategist Antoine Seawright. Kristin, we'll start with you. These are both, Oprah and Bloomberg, both people that have been considered as potential presidential contenders. Bloomberg was just about to jump in before he found out Hillary had the nomination. Does this surprise anybody to see this kind of talk? I mean, these are political people.
Not really. And look, Rob, politics have been injected in commencement speeches for decades. FDR, JFK, and Dwight Eisenhower all gave commencement speeches that either touched upon or focused on the political events of their times. The difference, though, between then and now is how nasty politics have become. Rather than use politics to shape a practical or uplifting message, many major figures today, especially those on the left, instead send a very cynical and hyper-partisan message to recent graduates. Commencement speeches are supposed to be a gift from universities to graduates. They're supposed to send a message that is uplifting and inspiring, but we're just not seeing that in many cases now. I mean, does anybody really believe that Michael Bloomberg's address to those students a few days ago instilled hope? Absolutely not. It was a flagrant anti-Trump campaign speech, and those kids could have gotten that message any day of the week by turning on MSNBC. Our graduates deserve better.
Antoine, over to you. Every president has flaws. I mean, they really hyped on President Trump's problem with the honesty issue. But every president has problems. Every president does things wrong. You don't typically hear that in a commencement speech to a bunch of 22-year-old kids that are about to start their lives in the real world. What do you say to that?
Well, first of all, I disagree with Kristin a bit. The truth of the matter is things are so nasty in the way they are in politics now because of President Trump and some of the rhetoric from him and some of the Republican leaders who we have controlling our country, number one. And number two, college graduates have an awesome responsibility to go out into the world and make change and correct the wrongs. We have so many things wrong with our society, starting with the leader of the free world. And so they have an obligation to go out and do so. And what better audience to do that? In graduation speeches, one, yes, they're supposed to be inspirational, and yes, they're supposed to be feel-good messages, but they also can be a challenge. And I think these young people who graduate, who hear these graduation speeches, will be challenged to go out and correct the wrongs that we have in our country. And I don't think it's a bad thing.
Go back to Kristin for a second here. I mean, there's a lot to talk about in politics right now. Obviously, it's a big issue, but we're talking to people graduating from college, going out into the job market, about ready to start their lives. You've got 3.9% unemployment. There's a lot of really good economic news. There's a lot of things to be positive about in that environment, in a graduation environment. That didn't get touched on.
Exactly. Kids want to be inspired. And part of the problem, Rob, is that not only are speeches becoming hyper-political, they're becoming increasingly liberal. And I think a part of the problem, too, is that students, they don't want to be exposed to any speakers who don't reflect their own views. I mean, witness what happens when Ann Coulter or Milo Yiannopoulos are invited to speak at a place like Berkeley. But even more mainstream Republicans prompt protests. Condoleezza Rice pulled out of her 2014 commencement speech at Rutgers following protests. A study commissioned by Young America's Foundation found that liberal commencement speakers outnumber conservative commencement speakers 9-1. This is a reflection of just how flagrantly partisan these universities have become. Students are being indoctrinated from the second they get to college campuses until they receive their diplomas.
All right. Well, guys, I'm sorry to cut you off. Antoine, I'm sorry to cut you off. We are out of time on this subject, but we do appreciate it, and we'll talk to you next time.